All right, we're here at Village Roadshow. This is another edition of the Knocking Fireside Chat. We're with Steve Mosko, a newly minted advisor to Knocking, which we're very excited about. Steve is the CEO of Village Roadshow Entertainment Group for 24 years, Sony Pictures Television.
Yep.
Under your watch, some of the most successful shows on television were created. Breaking Bad, The Crown, The Blacklist, Shark Tank, among many others. Talk to us about what you're doing right now here at Village Roadshow.
Right.
What are you guys doing?
By the way, I had a great time at Sony for 24 years, so I enjoyed every minute. It was a big company at Sony, and I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. So I came here 4 years ago. This was a terrific company that spent pretty much for the last 25 plus years doing film financing for Warner Brothers Pictures. We're now building into a full-fledged studio, and it's very exciting because the content business, as you know, is exploding, and there's so many more places to sell content. And you know, a lot of people look at that and go, "Oh, worried about it." To me, I just see opportunity. And by the way, hats off to what you're doing too. I'm happy to sit here and talk to you about this because it's a stream of revenue that I don't think, like getting the ad dollars or getting product associated money has got the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is really combining a level of excitement to this world that has never been seen before.
It's pretty darn exciting. And look, I was on your side of the table for 30 years, And now I've jumped over, you know, Knocking. We're an e-commerce production company. So we find the products that people love. We put them in the shows that people love to watch. I had the show and I needed found money. And I brought in Brian, and that's how I did it when I was
I don't come from the world that you guys do, media, right? And I got to tell you, it's an honor to have you, you know, join us.
Thank you for coming.
You know, be a media advisor to us, especially, you know, coming from all the wonderful things that you've been involved in throughout your career. So we're super excited about that. And then, you know, when I got the chance to start working with Candy and seeing her perspective from media and knowing that there's just a lot more opportunity for media than just ad sales. 6.6 trillion in, you know, U.S. retail sales, and you look how big Amazon is, right? And no one is more trusted than media or any of the people in the shows, or whether it's news, national, local, across the board, and any of these talents that are out there. So there's so much opportunity in it, and you know, some of the questions I have for you are, you know, coming from, you know, seeing so much in media, from, like you just said, local news to Seinfeld to Breaking Bad to all these different things, and the ones that you're involved in the past and present and future. Because you mentioned to me that you would have loved to have done this years ago.
Well, I have to say I'm kicking myself because I had an idea like this literally in the late or mid '80s.
Wow.
I mean, because you know, I ran a TV station. The ratings were fine, but it just struck me like there's another way we can use a local platform.
Wow.
Because, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about, like, you know, look at Howard Stern, you know, and how, whether you like Howard or not, he has a very loyal following.
Absolutely.
And when he endorses something, his fans buy it.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, which is what I love, is you're combining this amazing audience with content and an emotional connection between a program and a product.
That's
and so you're doing something from a content perspective that's I think is huge value add. The other thing I will tell you, in the world we're in today, and look what's going on with the streamers. What are they doing? They're looking for another stream of revenue.
No pun intended.
Yeah, right, exactly. And in their case, it's more traditional ad buys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, guess what? They're now competing, or they're now digging potentially into the pot.
That's right.
That broadcasters have and cable people have. I mean, what your product, what your business is doing is creating a new revenue stream.
Yeah.
That's fully integrated to the fabric of a network or the fabric of the station. That's going to make, I mean, it's icing on the cake. It's found money, but you're doing it in a way where it feels like you're giving value to the consumer through content, through exciting content
that they like.
And then they can go buy something. They can shop.
I heard today, we were with one person we met, and she had said that what she does is she goes on the show and she screen shoots it, and then she takes that, and there's something on Pinterest that actually tells her how to then find the like item.
So people have been doing it on their own.
People are doing it.
They're already doing it.
But it's just not easily accessible to them, whether they're watching any like Netflix. any streaming, it could be any show or anything, and that's where they're getting the idea from. It could be those glasses you're wearing.
You're making it
Steve.
easy, and you're
Yeah.
making it very, very simple for them.
But let me just make two really important points, right? So one thing is that what we do, right, and what's interesting about this, and you talked about this earlier, is that it's not an ad. We're not competing with ad sales, because that's the first big
Right.
stop sign. Like, whoa, our ad sales team, it's like, well, guess what?
We're helping.
We're in the content.
But we're also helping
Right.
ad sales out. We never want to be disruptive to that. We actually want to be additive. So we're discovering things in the content, like what Candy tells people. If they literally carve out some of the content time for these types of things, they're going to learn a lot more about the person watching. That's going to help even ad sales and other areas too. It lifts everything, quite frankly.
When Wheel of Fortune would travel to Las Vegas or a city, I mean, the whole premise was you would encourage people to go visit Las Vegas. But during the show, when you see the nightlife and the casino, no one felt like that was a commercial.
Yeah.
But along the way, you were selling this idea like this is an
That's
exciting
right.
place to come. It felt like you were giving them. It felt like you were giving the viewers something that they would benefit from. It didn't feel like you're jamming a commercial down their throat.
You know what I equate that to? When you're in an airport, right? You ever notice you go to an airport and between checking in and going to the gate, there's 50 stores, right? It's the same thing. You know, it's part of the destination. You're a captive audience, so we have captive audiences, right? You're there, and you kind of walk through, and there's all this opportunity. You didn't get in your car and drive to the airport to shop. So if the content is interesting enough, if visually it's nice enough, you're going to say, hey, let me check that out. And it's not, we talked about this earlier, it's not new to anybody. It's all over our social
No, it's
feeds.
just making it easier for them. Like you talk about, like in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have this
Didn't
to
have
just
the back room.
literally lay there on the
Right,
couch and
right,
click the button to get it. We're about to do a big soap, right? And literally take a fake brand on television, and I'm sure, Steve, with all the stuff you've done, you got to know a ton of fake brands that are out
your
there.
story and then
Right? So a fake brand, and actually put a product to it that's already trusted in the show, but they've never actually had anything
It's
real
never
to
been
offer.
done before. And that's what I love about knocking. Everything we're doing is like pioneering in the space. Like it's amazing to me that it's been all over social media and people can buy stuff on social, but TV hasn't really gotten there yet.
That's a
across
great
the
point.
board.
How many people do you think look at what you're doing and go, I thought about, why didn't I do that? I mean,
I know, because guess what?
Yeah.
Okay, guess what? Because I was that chick, right? No, listen, here's the deal. For TV shows, news shows, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't know how to start an e-commerce, I don't have anybody to run the site. Typically, organizations don't have the bandwidth, the money, or the staff. It's a lot. You got to get the products. Who's going to talk to the brands? Who's running the site? Who's going to deal with the customers when they're calling up complaining, right? And that's where Knocking figured out a solution to that problem. We sit right in the middle and we do it all.
Okay, so we talked already about in the 80s. I thought about doing something like this, which I couldn't do. So then I move out here. Part of my job at Sony was overseeing Days of Our Lives, Young and Restless.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by the loyalty factor that goes along with these soap stars. I talk to the actors and they go, God, I was just out in public and, where'd you buy that dress? Or where'd you get those sneakers? Or where'd you...
They want it.
And so I spoke to the gentleman that owns Days of Our Lives, and again, we talked about it, but there wasn't you then.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to do. It's hard to do.
In theory, on a piece of paper, it makes sense.
It does, until you try to execute it.
But it's about execution.
Well, what we know for sure is that people will buy from trusted sources, right? So we have steals and deals on local stations all over the country. What's key about that program is that the anchors introduce a segment because people love their local anchors, right? Likewise, on network.
Well, they're trusting them to tell them the news.
That's right.
And they've invited them into their home.
And then they tell
That's
that
right.
news, like forget about a product for a second, then they tell that news. I tell it to Candy, I tell it to you, I tell it to my mom, or like they tell that. This is the same thing with something like a product, right, or a brand, or something that can make your life better. You then tell, they tell you tell everybody. Like you talked about the Howard Stern thing. My brother listens to Howard Stern all the time. the first thing he texts all 5 of his brothers is what Howard Stern said to get? Of course. Like,
By the way,
Yeah.
you know where they get the most money for the ads? The live reads.
the live
Yeah,
reads. Yeah,
because that's the trusted source.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's not what you're it's a version, a piece of
it
what
is.
you're
You're
doing.
right, because he's being real about that
So
too. On those.
he's not,
Yeah.
when he gives the live read, he's then saying, I believe in this product.
Yep.
I used to be a huge fan of Mike and Mike when they were
Yeah.
together, friends with those guys. And we were talking about the live reads. I couldn't believe how people respond to, like, the people
Oh, yeah.
walk the street like, hey, you told me about that new soft drink.
You told me about it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Because they
correct.
trust Mike and Mike. This is to me the future of retail, quite frankly, through media and in shows.
So really interesting.
Television, streaming, all of it.
Really
and making
interesting.
it
Did you
easier to
guys watch
access.
Billions this season?
Yes.
Did you watch it? Okay. Did you see the episodes? They did like 2 episodes where every time somebody walked in a room, they stopped the thing
Right,
and
right.
they were like jacket, whatever, printed out how much everything was in
Oh,
the episode.
really?
And I thought,
Yeah.
how much money are they leaving on the table?
That's right.
How
Yeah.
much money? Because it's the most incredible scene. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like everything they were wearing.
And by the way,
It was like
there's so many people
what
that
it was.
then kind of have to go find some similar like thing that takes them forever to do. So they want to know. People want to know. We want to know.
All right, I digress. Any final thoughts?
Well, first of all, congratulations on what you're doing, and I think
Steve.
what you're doing is if you're creating something that's entertaining and is generating revenue, but on top of that, you're creating this emotional connection, direct connection, interactive connection with the viewer,
Yeah.
and that's super important because it's all about engagement.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the convenience of this is so easy. And
It is for a media partner, and
Yeah.
it is for the brand.
Yeah.
I mean,
For both.
listen, if you look,
both.
I had a show. I had many shows I've EP'd, right? I can look at a format and find 3 minutes easily. I can find 4 minutes. Once a week, twice a week, I think I could make that happen for the amount of revenue that you bring in.
And she mentions that. I got to say, like, because we're working with a lot of media partners these days, they have a lever. Like, you want to go from 4 minutes to 5, or you want to place it more than twice a week. They have an opportunity, right, to continue to grow.
This was all really great.
so congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me as part of the. Put me on the bleachers, watching you on the field. And
No, we're putting you to
I see
work.
huge success.
Thank you, Steve
Yeah,
Mosko.
thank
you.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Steve.
Stay tuned for another edition of our Fireside Chats, but this is a big one, so we're going to keep this up for a while.
Take care.